Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod. Today with us, we have Innocent Kawooya. He is CEO at HiPipo. And basically, we're going to discuss about everything in between fintech, his experience as an internet entrepreneur, film producer, and everything in between. It's going to be fun. This podcast brought to you by podbuyer.com. If you want to start, scale, or be invited to a podcast, find sponsorship, build a community on the back end of a podcast, which serves as the front end funnel, and even get clients and leads off a podcast, podbuyer.com for that. Innocent, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and about your business?
Thank you, Charles. My name is Innocent Kawooya, and I've been serving as CEO of HiPipo for the last 13 years. HiPipo is a digital innovation, fintech innovation, financial inclusion organization that has been serving more as a non-for-profit organization since 2005. So we'll be making 19 years in the game this year. And part of the things that have happened over the last 19 years is changing of lives one after the other every single day of our lives and operations. Our dedication is leveraging technology and maximizing, helping people maximize their digital dividend using technology and make the best out of it, earn a little bit more from whatever they've been earning in the traditional means, learn as much as they can using digital tools, and be able to have access to formal financial services.
Right. So tell me about inclusion in Africa. Is there an inclusion problem there?
Well, thank you, Charles. Of course, inclusion is a big challenge, not only in Africa, even in other parts. I mean, you've heard of stories in India, in Philippines, in South America. But in Africa today, we still speak of more than 400 million people that are still financially excluded to start with. But the story of inclusion in Africa, especially for the last 20 years, could not happen without first making sure that people get digitally included. And digital inclusion, we're speaking about getting people to access connected devices that are online using internet, getting people to make use of devices like mobile devices to be able to communicate. To paint a kind of picture for you, Charles, and for everyone that is watching us, just 20 years ago, 2 decades for that reason, access to internet in Uganda and in Africa was maybe at a ratio of 1 to 10,000 people. It was very hard to find 10 people having access to internet. We all had to go to internet cafes to have internet. Schools that had started getting computers could only have 1 out of 100 computers having internet access. And that is probably with the head teacher or the school bursar who has to do printing for the school. Government officials could only access internet in senior offices and only when they're in office. So anytime when they're out of office and they work 8 to 5, so they don't have any access to information. They don't have access to connectivity. So the inclusion problem that we came in to solve was by starting to help people access facts about the benefits they can have by leveraging technology, and for that matter, internet, to learn, to access real-time information, and then to be able to connect to other people across the globe. So part of the things we ever did in the first place is build the first ever social network in Africa, HiPipo.com, which we phased out the years later. And this was to showcase one of the use cases of internet in connecting people, friends and friends of friends, in what we call the Friends Rendezvous.
Right. And I mean, you started your career as a film producer, produced Life of a Champion, which is quite interesting, covering the life of kickboxer. Not sure if the audience knows the guy, but yeah, Golola Moses. I'm going to watch it, by the way. And my question for you is, like, what were your starting, how did you came to foundership when startups in Africa are usually not the most popular choice? How did you came in touch with that new phase of your life?
I beg your pardon, Charles. Could you please rephrase the question?
How did you start at HiPipo, basically?
Okay. Well, I am a co-founder, as you may notice from the description of my profile. I'm a co-founder of HiPipo, and I joined HiPipo in my senior four in 2005. An organization that I was, whose journey was kickstarted by John Mark and other colleagues that he was starting with and in Makerere University. So I joined a few months shortly after. And part of our realizations then was the need for growing in creating content and disseminating the same. I mean, personally, I had been president of Writers Club from my senior two in high school. So I understood the power of content. Many times when I needed to communicate with the head teacher, I didn't have to waste time getting into his office because I knew he reads from our notes board. So all I could do is make sure I air our views in the articles, and before you know, decisions are made based on what he has read on the notes board. But we realized that there was a need for telling a lot of our untold stories, disseminating awareness, and having access to content that is already created in the Western world, especially educational material. And the easiest way was to create a platform that gives people a user experience or a sort of a user case that helps them to understand the match that can happen as a result of using internet. So we create HiPipo. I mean, all the stories you see about us creating films, about running initiative like Win Initiative, that is a fully skilling initiative for film and all the rest. I mean, everything is rotating around the fact that in 2005, we realized that one of the things, just like we speak about AI today, that is also enabling a faster creation of content, we realize that one of the biggest things that will happen on the internet will be the creation of unlimited content. I mean, it was very hard for someone to be on a feature like this today on this kind of podcast because TV and radio never democratized how people could have their views aired freely and democratically. And internet came in to allow everyone who has an idea, who has a skill, to be able to showcase it to the world. I'm sure you've watched short videos of babies, siblings biting themselves and crying on camera and then getting billions of views. I've seen channels growing just because of the result of one video. And you've seen the likes of Despacito music videos growing, Gangnam Style. You've seen a number of people growing as a result of using internet. I mean, for any reason, there has not been anything as amazing as connecting an internet. Post office and all the other mailing services all around the world that are supposed to be taking and delivering content could never be as efficient and as fast as email and any other social media platform. But see what we have today. Whether it is a news platform, whether it is a production company, if you cannot synchronize with how internet works in delivering content in real time, you are leaving yourself out. But importantly, what made us start and go into avenues like film production was realize that there was so much transformation that can happen as a result of helping people self-create opportunities for themselves. That as long as someone has a skill and they can do something, they can create some piece of art, they can create news, they can create some learning material. They only need a device, and in this case, a smart device like a phone, and they're able to have content created in real time. And for nowadays, it is in really good quality. Some devices have been advanced. Mobile handsets have been advanced in a way that they can create high-end content. I'm sure people who are watching us here have heard of stories of international music videos and films created using phones like iPhones and all the rest. And that, in a nutshell, even relating to our theme and slogan, maximizing the digital dividend, speaks to making sure we show people how much they can get out of their investment in the digital spectrum.
I'm curious to hear also because M-Pesa quite revolutionized how Africa worked financially. I believe that was kind of the highway that could potentially lead to massive growth in Africa. What were your thoughts on M-Pesa? Why do you think it was so successful? And what has been your role into developing M-Pesa into something better?
I think, well, one of the things that excites me most about innovation like M-Pesa is having a direct touch and connection to all those that innovated. The folks like Michael Joseph, Dr. Warren Curry, Susie Loney, and all the folks, Michael Richards, and all the folks that were part of the initial team that created the first ever and the fastest growing financial service all around the world. I mean, from our own side, we have a very amazing folks like John Mark, who has been a part of the key conversations and decisions that are made in all, of course, the biggest fintechs in Africa, which are M-Pesa and MTN for that matter. And ours is, as HiPipo and myself, is to play a role of speaking and delivering the voice of the non-techie people that want to be financially included. I mean, we are speaking of more than 690 million people that run active mobile money accounts today. But what has this done? What started as SMS service has now inspired a number of email payment services. But also, I'll take someone back to stories, part of which inspired things like M-Pesa to come in place. So if someone, for instance, if Charles or myself, if I had a girlfriend somewhere in a district like Iganga or Masaka, somewhere in Uganda, and we are staying worlds apart, the only way I was able to send them money if they wanted it was through buying airtime using a scratch card. I read for them the card number, then they take the airtime and sell it at maybe a loss of more than 20% to an agent, and then they're able to get maybe 8,000 of the 10,000 shillings that I sent them. So when this was happening, we were having a challenge, and it was a very, very, very immediate challenge that we needed to find solution to. And what comes up? Innovations in the mobile space. If we can send airtime, if we can share airtime on the mobile phone, can't we share money? Because it's all carrying the same value. It starts from money. And before we know, it is usable for airtime, for data, and all that kind of stuff. And yes, before we know, all this is happening, and we have innovations that are mobile driven and are enabling easy transfer of real value and funds and payments. But see what has happened over the last years. We are growing in sense of interoperability. We have been inspired by frameworks like the Level 1 Project's guide and its principles that are helping in accelerating thoughts around things like interoperability, things like same-day settlement, seeing things like irrevocability of payments, and all the things that we need to understand as innovators around the space in making sure that we provide and innovate solutions that meet the needs of low-income users. So today, for anyone that is innovating or relating it to the stories of M-Pesa and the MTN mobile money, Airtel money, and the rest, whatever is supposed to be innovated today should be tailor-made to meet researched and qualified standards, like things like the Level 1 Project has qualified, like saying, if you are innovating for low-income users, who are the majority of the people in the African continent, you should make sure the financial services are more affordable. How? They should be able to offer value that either equates the value that fiat currency offers for them, or it should even be less. As someone doesn't want to be sending 10,000 shillings and it is costing them another 1,000 shillings. So sometime in 2017, HiPipo published a paper on the time-saving capacity of digital financial services. But the most important attention was paid on mobile financial services like mobile money. And we realized that in Uganda alone, more than 5 million people were saving more than 17 million and 680,000 hours every month. And how are they saving this time? They were saving it because the long queues we used to going to pay for utilities like electricity and water had all been cut down. as a result of having mobile financial services like mobile money. And this is not unique for Uganda. It is a case that is happening in the Philippines, in India. It is happening all around the African continent. Markets like Nigeria and South Africa that were slow at adopting mobile money because South Africa was having card coverage of about 91%. Also now adapting to mobile financial services like mobile money. Why? Because the solutions have proved to be more seamless. They are proved to be more appropriate for users, especially low-income users, because someone just needs to have a phone. That doesn't necessarily need to be a smartphone. So for mobile money, for anyone that is watching, for context sake, anyone who has a phone that is even about $3 or $7 or a feature phone can be able to have a bank in their hands. And how best can you explain inclusion if someone who is having $3? And most recently, because of the existence of mobile money innovations like M-Pesa, like MTN mobile money and the rest, other innovators, to name the likes of Kawoo, have come out now to create mobile-less and contactless solutions. They are creating cards for students in schools to keep mobile money. I mean, they're leveraging mobile money. They're leveraging things like merchant payment solutions to allow for students who cannot afford to have a phone, but can afford to have maybe $3, $10 as pocket money, to have a card that costs only $1, and the money can be deposited anywhere by the parent, wherever they are. So students cannot go broke anymore in schools if they have access to such solutions. But these are just a few of them. But additionally, as I end on this, there's also been a very great growth in mobile lending. I mean, for many cases, myself, I wasn't able to qualify for a bank loan anytime because I don't own land. I don't own things like anything that banks call collateral. Thanks to the growth of mobile financial services, today there are quite a number of solutions across the continent that are offering real-time lending solutions and affordably for everyone that wants to have them, as long as they are registered and they meet the minimum required KYC.
What does Africa need to get the growth it deserves?
Well, Africa needs to collaborate, first of all. There is, I mean, from a HiPipo point of view, and what we call the HiPipo Included One program that is generously supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We are working on initiatives like the 40 Days for the Fintechs initiative and the Women in Fintech initiative that has a hackathon, a summit, and an incubator. And what we are growing every single day is we are getting in place around different countries in the continent. We are getting players, innovators, fintech innovators, digital financial service providers, banks, MNOs, and all the rest to come into the same room and have conversations on collaboration. Well, one of the most important rails of accelerating efforts in inclusion, and specifically for financial inclusion and fintech innovation, has to happen around ensuring that we implement interoperability as a baseline and as an entry qualification for any player. Of course, interoperability can be helped by things like open banking and open APIs implemented in different places. But of course, very many big players are proved not to have capacity to serve everyone. Why? Innovations at some point have to be tailor-made to meet some minimum qualifications like local languages that they cannot innovate for altogether. Some of them are supposed to be tailor-made to meet basic financial needs and requirements of different users. I mean, a financial solution that is being made for refugees, it has to be totally different from one that is being made for mothers that are expecting, from that of children that are going to school, from that of elites that want to have savings for traveling across continents. So a time has come for having different players and innovators collaborating. Collaboration has to happen, but what should be the enabler? tools and solutions like Mojo Loop that enable interoperability to work seamlessly should be made use of. Tools like MOSIP that allow for creation of affordable digital identities because it is a very big challenge. I mean, part of the KYC requirements for getting people onboarded to formal digital rails and financial rails requires that people have national identities. They are very expensive for national government and regional governments to implement. Yet, open source tools like MOSIP, like Mojo Loop, have proved that there are digital ways and channels that we can use to create access to the same affordably for the individuals and the governments.
Where can people find out more about you, Innocent?
For anyone that is following, you can check us on www.hipipo.com and www.hipipo.org. HiPipo is HIPIPO. I always prefer to spell it as we write it: capital H, small I, capital P, small I, small P, small O.com and .org. If you want to know about me, myself, you can check out on my website, innocentkawooya.com. And you can find us on every social media platform, including mobile money.
There you go. Thank you so much. So that was Charles Cormier, CEO of CEOwisdompodcast.com. And if you want to start, scale, or be invited to a podcast, podbuyer.com.